Hi family, welcome to chapter 3.1. The other day I was getting out of the car when I got home, and have you ever done this? You're thinking about the day and you get home and you're really happy to see your family, and you get out of the car and there's 2 4-foot snakes right by your foot as you go to take the next step. What would you do? Man, what I would do for a video camera on me at that moment in time, I would have set a world record for both the long jump and the high jump off of 1 foot. I took off, and I remember that feeling. My adrenaline went through the roof quickly. My legs had that kind of wobbly, tingly feeling. If you ever felt that before, do you know what I'm talking about? If you've been in that moment where you got surprised, and then thankfully it wasn't really that big of a deal. Like these were 2 little garden snakes, and I really am actually not afraid of snakes, oddly enough. I mean, I went and I scurried them off into where they'd be safe, but man, it just shocked me, and I started giggling. I started laughing at myself. Have you ever done that? You're like, oh my gosh, and you're just like, ooh, wish somebody had seen that, or thank God nobody saw that, right? It's a big lesson in that. We all have motivation in us. You may feel like you're a procrastinator or motivator, or not motivated to make changes in your life, but we all have it. So here's another example, not so funny. Let's just take this journey with me. If you knew you were going to have a heart attack or a stroke in 4 weeks' time, from right now, you had 4 weeks, and after the heart attack or stroke, you're going to come out of it like an invalid, where you couldn't walk, or you were heavily medicated for the rest of your life. You couldn't exercise anymore. Like, you knew your life was going to be shorter after that, and miserable. All right, let's just throw that in there. What would that do to your family? All right, what would that do to your state of mind? Not good, right? So take that picture, and it's 4 weeks away. The only way to prevent it, the only possible way out of that nightmare, and if that doesn't scare you enough, what about your spouse or your kid? If that was going to happen to them in 4 weeks, and the only way out of it, there wasn't like a second option. You can't say, is there anything else I could do? This was the one thing that you had to do. You could only drink green juice from raw organic veggies from here on out for 4 weeks. Nothing else could go in your body other than water. Like, you couldn't eat anything. There wasn't a chip. There was no meat, right? You couldn't even eat a whole veggie. You had to do the green juice. Now, you could do as much as you wanted, and you did that for a whole month. So 4 weeks in a row. But that deadline came, and there was no stroke. There was no heart attack. Your family is safe, happy, and healthy. How many of you would be able to do that for 1 month? Right? If your hand didn't go up, then let's just say that what if the stroke was coming 2 days from now? Could you do that for 2 days? Green juices. Yes, you could. If you think in terms of, I don't want that misery of not being able to walk or drooling on myself. If you've ever known anybody that had a stroke, I have in my family. It's awful. I watched her continue to deteriorate, and she went into Alzheimer's. It was the most disturbing, sad thing ever. And I remember that feeling too. Just like I remember the funny feeling from jumping away from the snakes, I also remember the despair and the misery and the destruction that Alzheimer's took on my family. It was awful. And I used that as motivation. I used the funny stuff as motivation also. The key to making any successful change is to staying motivated. Now, I get that all the time. How do you stay so motivated? Well, it's really, motivation itself isn't really permanent. And I got this from Zig Ziglar. If you want to really get deep into this stuff and have a positive mental attitude and stay motivated, I would suggest you go listen to all of his stuff, because he bases everything on this one thing. How do you stay motivated to stay positive? And the answer is like this. Motivation isn't permanent. Neither is bathing or showering. but you should bathe or shower regularly, right? You should motivate yourself regularly also. And my world, every morning, I motivate myself, even if it's just for 5 minutes. This morning, it's more like 30 minutes on Tuesday and Thursday morning. It's awesome. And I have this on my desk, right by my computer, the words 2 snakes, right? I wrote that down when after I laughed about that. I went and wrote it down in there because that reminded me of how motivated I was in that time to get away from those snakes. It just scared me. I know I can do more. I know I can be more motivated. And then also I have written in there, Alzheimer's. I do not want to get that, so I'm scaring myself a little bit. And then on the gratitude side of things, I want to be able to walk down the beach and play soccer with Mish and Steele and Steele's kids when we're 80, 90, and 100. I want to be adjusting, you guys, when I'm 100 years old. I have a feeling that my last minute on this earth is going to be adjusting one of you, and I'm going to fall over on you, and then I'm off to heaven. Right? I want that kind of future, so I'm staying motivated now, and that's where you need to start. So when I give you rules on food, you got to start with your mindset. Motivate yourself. You can do this. You will run away from snakes. You will run away from a stroke. You will run away from heart disease. You'll run away from dementia. You will do anything to spend time with your grandbabies, grandparents, right or wrong. You'll do anything to be there for them, right? You can do this. Changes. Let's talk about the 2 biggest offenders in food. Not just my opinion. Obviously, if you lined up all the food that's out there, there's plenty that's bad for you. But 2 categories that you really need to attack. And the quality of your meat and the quality of your carbs. So in chapter 3.0, I've mentioned that briefly. I'm going to dive into the meats and then the carbs. With your meats, okay, now technically that is protein and fat. Okay, so when you see the macros of protein, grams, and fat, calories, and that kind of thing, animal proteins or animal products, red meat, chicken, fish, those tend to have all of that. And then the carbs, right, we're going to break those down also. So in your meats, your proteins and your fats, a commercial meat, something that you would get from any fast food restaurant. Name any fast food, even the Christian one that's not open on Sundays that I used to frequent all the time, right? And I love the company, what they stand for, the Christian values. I get it, okay? This is not a slam on the people that own that, but the quality of the food there or any of the other fast food restaurants is, let's just call it a 1 on a 0 to 100 scale. 100, it's that bad. And they try to get it less. They have to make it less expensive, right? They have to make it quickly, right? They're doing everything they can to cheapen the food. So you get this cheap ingredients, and then you're supposed to build a body out of that. You cannot build a healthy body with fast food. It is not going to happen. I don't care how tough you think you are. Mish and I have not had fast food since I think we got stuck in our honeymoon. We were in Hawaii. We didn't realize everything closed down. The only thing that was open was Taco Bell, right? So we were dying. We were starving. And I remember eating it, and I felt terrible the next day. That's the last time I remember eating any of that. So that's been 14 years, thankfully, right? And I didn't die. I haven't died of misery over that. I don't miss it whatsoever. You will not see me pulling through any of these fast food restaurants. Now, thankfully, in Dallas here, in Addison and North Texas, we have a lot of great restaurants to choose from where the meat, they're very clear about it, where it's 100% grass-fed beef, free range, free roaming chicken, free of antibiotics, free of hormones. The people that really provide the high quality stuff, or you're gonna build a racehorse type of heart. Secretariat, that wonderful movie about that horse. I would go watch that movie and watch what all they went through to come through at the end in victory. Would you feed a $1 million racehorse like that fast food? Would you feed your dog fast, poor quality food? $5 cat? No, you wouldn't do that. A lot of you are feeding your animals better than you feed yourself. What about how much are you worth? A whole lot more than $1 million, right? What are you worth to your kids and grandkids? It is worth cleaning up and finding the restaurants and understanding. And if you don't live in a place that has healthy choices like that, you're gonna have to figure it out. You're gonna have to pick the world up by the bootstraps and go figure it out. If you're out in the country, there's all kinds of butchers that are out there that process deer meat and that kind of thing that you can go buy. We got plenty of them just north of the DFW area here. Clean up your meats. Fish, a special subject on fish. Don't shoot the messenger. Okay, I used to eat what I'm about to tell you not to eat. I don't eat it at all anymore. It is disgusting just thinking about it. Shrimp, crabs, crawdads, crawfish, oysters, clams, catfish, any other bottom feeders are horrible for you. They taste great. I know they're a delicacy. You can go to these steakhouses and get surf and turf. Delicious, right? And so bad for you. The fatty acid ratio is way out of balance. And they eat all the fish poop that other fish drop at the bottom. You're eating things that eat fish poop. It just, none of it makes sense. Physiologically though, the fatty acid ratio is way out of balance. It will create inflammation in your body. A couple years back, I really missed crab legs to this day. I mean, just thinking about it right now while I'm talking, I'm starting to salivate, and I'm really not even hungry. I mean, I know warm crab legs and king crab legs. You put the butter sauce on it. I ate one. It was awesome. I hadn't had it in probably 10 years at that point. I hadn't had any shellfish, shrimp, or catfish or anything like that. I had one crab leg, and I was not sensitive back in the day to crabs. But I ate this crab leg, and the next day my joints were all swollen. I felt like everything was bruised. I was just swollen. And so I had firsthand knowledge of this inflammation that I'm talking about right now. If maybe you're staying inflamed and you don't even know it. Just listen, shellfish, bottom feeders, just tremendously bad for you. You should not eat them, right? The other fish that are great for you, wild caught salmon, that's my personal favorite. As long as you know where the fish is coming from, it needs to be from a clean area. I think you can get some cod and that kind of thing, really clean stuff. Just know where it's coming from. I don't eat any tuna at the moment. I just don't trust any of the sources. A lot of it's farmed. Some of our oceans are so toxic, but wild caught salmon, you're getting it up in those freshwater lakes and rivers coming out of the mountain flow. I can trust that. Especially when I have patients bring it to me. It is just awesome. So really clean up your fish. If you're a big fish eater, and really any meats, just start understanding where it comes from. So let's talk a little bit about the amount of meat that you eat. So let's categorize our bodies into, I want to use proper English here, smaller, mediumer, and not so small. And I fit in the not so small group. I could easily pack on 30 or 40 pounds over a couple of weeks, I think. The heaviest I was ever was 220, and I knew I was heavy. I was still exercising all the time and running around here and eating really clean. But what I found out is that I was eating too much animal protein. I was just eating too much protein in general. I weighed 191. I weighed 191 this morning, so roughly 30 pounds off over the last couple of years. And that's been the simplest, biggest change, is I radically reduced the amount of meat that I was eating. So I have about one serving a day. The one serving is about the size of your fist. Last night I had some turkey, right? Some fresh, organic, wild, free-ranging turkey, wherever Mish gets that, and it was awesome, right? So I don't have to completely eliminate that, but keep it smaller if you're on the less small side of bodies, okay? About one, maybe two. And you'll notice it. If you look at the amount of protein that you are eating, you're probably eating quite a bit more than one fistful per day. Like if you're eating 3 or 4 eggs, then a couple of chicken breasts, and then some meat at night, that is gonna be way too much. Now remember, if you go talk to a dietitian or a nutritionist and that kind of thing, and they start talking macros and the amount of calories and the amount that you work out, I'm speaking generally, all right? If you're really into this world and you're on the bigger side of things, I would suggest you even limit the amount of animal protein anyway if you're trying to really stay lean and muscular. I haven't lost any energy, and the majority of what I'm doing in the last couple of weeks has been juices. You know, that's all I've had this morning. I did have an organic coffee, right? And then I've had 3 or 4 juices. A green one, I had one with raw lemon juice, some cayenne pepper, a little organic agave syrup, and water, right? Not too much sugar, keep that agave down low. Oh, it wasn't agave, sorry, it was maple. And then that's been my juices, right? And I'm not miserable. I'm not running on empty. I don't feel hungry. I feel satiated. You can do this. But now that comes back. When you think about doing juices throughout the day, that doesn't sound fun. But then I start thinking, well, I don't want to get Alzheimer's in a month. If I'm going to have a stroke in 2 years, I want to do stuff right now, today, so that I don't have that, right? That's how you got to look at this. And then guys and gals, it becomes easier over time, I promise. So clean up the animal protein, just clean it up, and then based on your body size, right? If you're on the less small side, you know, start limiting it. In the medium group, you can get away with 2, 3, 4 servings a day. Just if you know that you haven't been healthy, don't think that that's carte blanche to eat as much meat as you want. Still limit it, all right? If you're in the medium category and you still got a little softies on your side where you can pinch there, I would suggest you start limiting your animal protein. And if you're on the smaller side, well, now you have more freedom on the meats. Right? You're gonna need a lot of protein. You're probably burning through that, but quality is the most important thing. And lastly about that, if you're a fitness superstar like my wife, that is a whole new set of rules, right? She needs to have protein. So she's eating way more than one, and she's not big at all, but she's eating way more than 2 or 3 servings per day. I mean, it's throughout the day. And she's trying to play, you know, in these professional soccer teams. I mean, she's running like crazy. That's a whole new set of rules, but you get the picture. At least clean up the meats. Your carbs, without exception, you have to stop eating crackers, restaurant style chips. You can get organic, you can get chips made out of clean stuff at some of these stores like Siete, S-I-E-T-E chips are made out of cassava flour. You have to dig in and learn chips. If you just feel like you can't, like you could get motivated all you want, but man, just a chip, I just want one, right? Have the good stuff on hand. Don't be having saltines laying around. Right? You might as well pour sugar down your throat. So you got to eliminate the crappy carbs. Just get them out of the house. The cakes, the cookies, the bad pastas, the rices, the regular chips. Exchange all that for like veggie chips and celery. You know, celery is a really good go-to because it has good texture, and you can dip that in almond butter. So in the next video, we're going to talk about healthy fats. So if you need to go back and watch this one again, it's animal proteins and carbs. Veggies technically are a carb. So these juices that I'm drinking, I did a big old thing of carrot juice this morning. It was absolutely delicious. And I felt satiated. It got my sweet tooth a little bit. That's an example of a very healthy carb. Fruit, if you need to lose weight and you know it, then you're gonna have to limit the amount of fruit that you're eating, because that fruit sugar will add to the insulin in your body. It will add to the weight gaining. It'll add to the fat storage. You're gonna have to limit that. So keep it to berries. Maybe a handful of berries a day is pretty safe. The stronger and more motivated and the more diligent you get with that, the more trimmer you're gonna get, the healthier you're gonna get, the more longevity you're gonna have, the more energy you have, the better brain function you have, the more hope for your future, the more playtime with your great grandbabies. I'm watching my dad completely spoil, my mom too, completely spoil my daughter. And while at first it was infuriating, but then I stepped back and I was like, wait a second, this is the coolest thing, watching my parents in their 70s enjoy time with their grandchildren. It is so fun to watch, and I don't want to interfere with that at all. I want that. In fact, if there's a higher level, more enjoyment, I'm going to go for that. I mean, it's so cool to watch them with my daughter. We want the best for you guys. You got to motivate yourself. You got to take it by the bootstraps and go. It's Dr. Hooten signing off. Remember, drugs are bad. God is great, and so are you.